So just before the video starts, I wanted to give a quick shout out to what is quite possibly the most apt sponsorship I've ever come across for Vivec. Oftentimes I'll decline, 99.9% of sponsorship deals I come across, because I just don't think Raid Shadow Legends is very appropriate for the sort of content on this channel. But I know a lot of you like to fall asleep to these report videos, and that's why I thought these COZYSNUG sleep earbuds from LYTMI really are a match made in heaven for this channel and its viewers. If you're anything like me, you might struggle falling to sleep on your back with conventional earbuds in. I'd always wondered whether there were any designs that facilitated side sleeping without waking up with a perforated eardrum. Not only do these earbuds work wonders for side sleepers, they boast high quality audio, are super lightweight and soft with various different sizes of earwings to pick and choose from, on top of having 21 hours of charge when using the charging case. So, now you can all quickly and smoothly fall asleep listening to me recount the usual litany of mind-bending, reality-shattering experiences that we all know and love. If you're interested, please check out the link in the description, and don't forget to use the discount code VIVEC for 10% off your order. Anyway, we'll crack on with the video now, but be sure to let me know what you thought of the earbuds if you do end up snatching yourself a pair, and thank you to LYTMI for reaching out, I really appreciate it. Off the Rails. A 4HO EPT trip report by Nervewing. Posted to earbud.org September 5th, 2017. Preface. I intended this to only be an experience with 4HO EPT, but it unfortunately went a bit off the rails and I had to abort it with benzodiazepines. T plus 0 hours. Take the capsule with lemon extract and ginger for the nausea. T plus 15 minutes. How odd. I'm already feeling the substance coming on with great intensity. It's as if there was no gentle come-up. The onset was a plunge straight into the opening shades of the peak. I feel light and giddy with some GI discomfort, but it's nothing serious. I'm beginning to shake quite a lot though, and visuals are beginning to appear. 20 minutes. This feels equivalent to what I would call the peak for any other substance. Little did I know that this was still just the come-up, that this was just the foothills of the mountain I was unknowingly attempting to summit. I feel like I'm accelerating exponentially into the experience. The abrupt intensity of it all is shocking to say the least. My entire existence is quaking with the raw force of it. The visuals have reached a point of interrupting my activities, obscuring my ability to read, and warping my perceptions to make the room around me unrecognisable. It is though I am viewing everything through conchoidal fractures in glass, everything warped by transparent concentric curves, accented with rainbows. My field of vision is splitting into blocks that separate and spin and twist and alter independent of one another, seemingly in competition to see which can baffle and confuse me the most. The edges of my vision begin to disintegrate to reveal a much wider, deeper, and alien world that is typically beyond my perception. Auditory effects present as flanging and echoing of the sounds around me, steadily increasing in pitch as they reverberate. It's as though the universe is laughing at me. That alien essence that lingers in the wings of my vision is rending my reality apart, and it finds this hilarious. It finds my growing panic and discomfort absurd. It's not malicious, but rather a laugh of pity at the ludicrousness of all that was occurring. Everything is moving, regardless of whether my eyes are open or not. It all feels so automatic and robotic, as though the blocks the world has been split into are acting on their own in accordance to some esoteric programming. Things are twisting and spinning, and soon my physical sense of self feels like it's being torn apart and manipulated by alien tendrils. Tendrils made from strings of repeated quadrilaterals, like that computer glitch where a window leaves a trail behind it when it's dragged, weaving their way out of the cracks in reality. They are each tipped with claws that pull apart my essence and pick apart my mind. There is no comfortable way to situate my body. I feel like my neural processes have become mechanised, like my brain is a computer. The visuals have picked up beyond the point of mere distortions of the environment. Vivid hallucinations are now forming. A parade of fantastic, spiny, golden creatures circles in the air around my head. They advance solemnly, as though they are marching to battle. My mind continues to click and unform itself, as though it is being deconstructed more and more, reduced to the raw physical mechanisms of the electrons that make up my nerve impulses. I feel like I'm becoming an embryo of a human, some lower primal state from which any person can be built, a sort of debug mode for humanity. The open-eyed visuals glow like neon lights. They are lines and forms that conform to the shape of every object around me, with concentric patterns extending inwards from them. It makes everything look futuristic. It's around now that I begin to notice some aberrant physical effects. Firstly, I notice I am shaking more than I ever have from any psychedelic, and I notice that it's not just shaking, but full convulsions of my limbs, uncontrollable muscle contractions from my elbow downwards. This is somewhat worrisome. It feels like my mind is melting down, and I also notice my heart is beating extremely hard and fast. This may have been psychosomatic anxiety, but it absolutely had me worried. I also noticed myself producing a lot of phlegm, having to cough and blow my nose quite a lot. I begin to fear that I might experience a seizure. 1 hour in. The physical effects have me sufficiently worried. I decide to dose 1 mg of clonazepam and 2 mg of etisilam. In addition to calming the spiraling out-of-control mental aspect of the trip, it should also slow my heart and calm the muscle contractions. For a brief time, however, things only continue to pick up. At first it feels as if the benzos are falling like snow, covering everything in a soft blanket, gently placing a stratus cloud over existence. Everything has been encased and preserved in foggy glass. The landing procedure has been initiated, but there is an intense storm to pass through first. The tryptamine nonetheless rages forth, popping up from the snow and shaking it off. Indeed, my mind seems intent on straying further and further. I feel as though I'm at the threshold of a great and infinite other, a glistening blissful world where I'm omnipotent, where I am in control of atoms and the flow of electrons. I close my eyes and see the room I was previously occupying in fateful clarity. For the next several minutes, I'm genuinely unsure if my eyes were open or closed. It actually borders on delirium. I feel like I've passed through the threshold into an alternate and mysterious version of my sober reality. In this world, everything is ethereal. Everything is made of dense smoke that I can craft and alter with my mind. I am entirely telekinetic. The world is putty before me. I find with great excitement that I can spontaneously generate images with my mind. This has been one of my goals since I began taking hallucinogenics, and my newfound ability to do this is absolutely exhilarating. All it took was allowing my mind to be subsumed and adopted into this alien paradigm. In this world, I can see pathways of energy left behind by everything, trails carved in the fundamental smoke of this existence. I am overcome with the feelings of peace and serenity that come with a sense that this is my dominion and sanctuary. Yet, at the same time, I still feel like a guest, an outsider, like this realm is a sentient being that has invited me into itself. I look at my hand and see energy flowing around it like it is being consumed by a flame, the plumes of energy transparent, though they warp the surroundings. With concentration, I can make these invisible tendrils coagulate and turn to forms. I can concentrate them and cause them to erupt, or let them disperse into the smoke around them. Nevertheless, I realise that this existence is simply not compatible with my material reality. To even comprehend things in a way that allows me to do this means abandoning all semblances of my sober being. After this delicious foray into the potential of a ravaged mind, I descend into the next gauntlet, a floating, drifting incoherency. My mind gets caught repeatedly in benign loops, yet they carry with them a sort of dirtiness, a sense of failure to function properly. That parade has returned, and it waltzes around me yet again. They seem to be preparing for some mission, yet are excluding me from their plans. There are a lot of thoughts running through my head, faster than I can comprehend. It's as if time, or some fundamental law of the universe, has been suspended just so I can fit this impossible glut of cognition into my existence. Every minor thought explodes and chains off into a million more. A tree bursting into fractalizing branches, each capillary twig of each branch containing a million worlds within it. There is so much to process, so much to explore, and I have no idea how I'll do any of it. Each little shred of thought gets entertained in exhausting detail, to the point where I'm hallucinating entire alternate histories and geopolitical events taking place on the Earth. Each time that I snap myself out of whatever historical paradigm my mind generated on its own, I'm disoriented and shaken. This all occurs rapidly and repeatedly at a consistent rate for quite some time. It's yet again almost a delirious feeling, of my mind convincingly generating events, locations, images that do not and never did exist, and presenting them before me. Some of these specific hallucinations, taken from my notes, include a storyline about me hosting an art show, something about watching nature documentaries with my friend's boyfriend seeing a fractal on a pipe and having it turn into a shrimp, a conversation with a police officer, and something about a crystalline log being shattered by a powerful female energy from the northwest. Needless to say, the chains of events and the ways they manifest are esoteric and incoherent. Every time I close my eyes, I am in a different time and place. T plus 1 hour and 30 minutes. What a fascinating experience. I'm already beginning to drift down, much to my relief, and I spend the past hour and a half with my mind shifted so far away from its normal self that I don't know what to make of anything. The chaotic state that had so powerfully dissociated me is slowly dissolving away for a gentle landing. The benzos feel like a vice clamped onto my mind, preventing proper recollection or integration of the experience. I'm still stumbling on delusional pitfalls of truly believing things that I'd likely just imagined. I can reflect fondly on feeling like a god. Indeed, they took me to a place I didn't know I wanted to go. This place was my Eden. This place was my divine. It will be my node and my garden, and I fully intend to return there in more stable circumstances. There is something in the other. It lingers there passively, in a place where everything is formless and eerie, and the inhabitants exist collectively. It was unexpected, but I'm glad they took me for the ride, although it was very rough. T plus 3 hours and 30 minutes. I am lucid enough now to be around others. The past 2 hours were just a slow, confusing burn that sizzled my circuits and injected more absurd imagery into my existence, seemingly just for my entertainment. My roommate comes up to smoke some cannabis with me, and I try to relate the experience to him as coherently as I can. I feel manic and quick-witted. I'm able to communicate and interact effectively and competently. Being around another person who I trust after such a rocky experience is blissful. This drug clung on to every strand of imagination I had and made them flourish into full-on, vivid hallucinations. T plus 4 hours. More friends come over, and I excitedly greet them and relate the experience to them. There is a definite empathogenic effect to the experience now. I'm talking way too much, and I feel really great about it. My mind is working on overdrive to produce as many words as possible. I do not know if I'm being obnoxious to the others in the room. My short-term memory is quite stunted at this point, much to my chagrin. I feel a great deal of regret at taking the benzos, as now I am in that fog and I cannot enjoy what is likely to be a fun night with the people I love the most. My roommate and friends ask me all sorts of stuff about things I know about, perhaps just to humour me. I answer their questions about biology and leftism with enthusiasm and vigour, eager to talk to others and share the limited knowledge I have on the subjects. T plus 5 hours and 45 minutes. My girlfriend comes over, and being around her is blissful and delightful. I'm so glad she is not judgmental about the state I've put myself into, though she has every right to be. Nonetheless, we have a relaxing and pleasant evening hanging out with my friends, smoking weed, drawing pictures together. I do not recall most of the rest of the night though. T plus 12 hours and 30 minutes. After a long night of being social, I am mostly back to baseline. My memory has crept back by this point, and I'm pretty lucid. I go to sleep without any issues. In conclusion, this has got to be one of the most intense psychedelic experiences that I've ever had. My research led me to believe that 75 milligrams would be a strong but manageable dose, but it proved to be way beyond my capabilities, at least within the realm of the psychosomatic effects. The headspace during this experience was fascinating and beautiful, particularly the ability to spontaneously generate imagery to my own will. This is something I'm eager to explore further, though definitely with a lighter dose. 4-HO-EPT, or 4-hydroxy-N-ethyl-N-propyltryptamine, also known as 4-HO-EPT or Eprosin. Credits to Psychonaut Wiki. I like to do these overview of new substances that I've never covered before on the channel. So yeah, 4-HO-EPT is a novel synthetic psychedelic substance of the tryptamine chemical class that produces psychedelic effects when administered. It is structurally related to psilocin, 4-HO-DMT, the active component in psilocybin mushrooms, and produces similar effects. Very little data exists about the pharmacological properties, metabolism, and toxicity of 4-HO-EPT. It has no history of human use before being sold online as a research chemical in 2016. It remains obscure and is either used recreationally or for research purposes. Unlike other more popular 4-subtryptamines, Eprosin isn't really visual. It mostly enhances colours, makes them more neonish. It has a strong euphoric body high. Some users compare it to an opiate body feeling. The mindset is usually light and positive. Very interesting that they described it here as not being very visual, whereas this guy had an immensely visual experience, but it must be taken into consideration that the dosage range on Psychonaut Wiki threshold begins around, well, there's actually a question mark there. The light dose begins at 15 milligrams, common 30 to 40, 40 to 60 is strong, and 60 beyond is heavy. So the guy took 75 milligrams. So, as we know, increasing the dosage of any psychedelic produces some seriously wacky effects, makes the experience much trippier, and you will lose more of yourself as you go deeper into these higher doses. But some people are just wired up where they could take, I don't know, a common dose of 4-HO-EPT and have some out of this world mental experience, because we're all wired up very differently and we relate to psychedelics in a very relative subjective sense based upon brain chemistry, ego density, quality of consciousness, so many different factors, life experience of other psychedelics. So this was really fascinating to read by Nervewing. Nervewing has done a lot of reports. I've featured many of his reports on the channel before. He has a really great writing style. I like that he combines the sort of time range with some detailed articulation of how he actually felt during the experience, what it was like, what was the visuals, what were the visuals like for him, and he relates that back to the time frame, which makes it much easier to follow, and it just is a bit more professional. There's so many different flavors of trip reports that you can get. These ones written by sort of the goats of the trip reporting world, like Nervewing, really just hit the nail on the head. You get a really good idea of what he went through, and you get a good idea of what the substance itself is like outside of, say, his own experience. Interesting as well how he took a benzo to sort of quell the trip, which is obviously a common thing for people to do if they need to, kill a trip. The ultimate trip killers are like, benzos, although you should be very careful with benzos and mixing any drugs really. But that's sort of like the go-to, isn't it? If you're tripping out big time, pop a Valium, and well, hopefully, once the Valium kicks in, the effects of the trip. I mean, you'll still have some of the effects of the trip, maybe physically and mentally and visually, but it'll definitely takes the edge off. Really, that's what it does. Always fascinating to cover these, the 4-subtryptamines. I really find them quite fascinating, and I know that many of you guys really appreciate that I like to cover all types of hallucinogenics, and whilst I'm very cognizant of the fact that the most popular videos of mine are the go-tos, the salvias, the train wreck salvia reports go into hell dimensions and experiencing universal love on 5-MeO-DMT, all the extreme ones, whether it's extremely positive, extremely negative. But there's a lot to be learnt from trip reports like these. I found this absolutely fascinating that he went into some form of like alien mind where he could manipulate reality like it's literally putty, as if the fabric of reality was made out of clay and he could mould it in any way he wanted. And damn, what a seriously transcendental and profound experience Nervewing has had, and seems to have had many before, considering he's written some of the very best reports on EARBUDS. So yeah, if you have any obscure, uncommon, unknown substances that you'd like me to cover in the vein of 4HO EPT, please comment that down below and I'll be sure to take a glance, see what the most frequently suggested one is, and be sure to put that at the top of my list for covering on the channel. Anyway, hope you learnt something from this and enjoyed the report, and I'll see you guys on the other side.